Hey, how's it going? So, I'm in North Carolina right now filming a documentary about my dad, and was pretty stoked about the rig that I had set up to do this, so I wanted to walk you through it. Um, so, I've shot a few short docs on the GH5 over the years, and every time I do it, I'm just learning more about this camera and about the form factor and how to sort of like design this so it best fits the way that I need to use it. For the longest time, I've done a lot of work with monopods, right? So I've created this setup where I've used like the Manfrotto monopods where they've got the three legs that spread out into a tripod base. Those are cool, but they're also pretty limiting because you can't get in enough you can't really get in enough situations. It limits the amount of angles that you can actually get, and I find it's pretty difficult to walk with those because the tripod part just gets in the way. I really like to use my monopod almost as if it's a kind of almost as if it's a Steadicam rig. So I've got this canvas pouch. It's kind of like a flag holder that people would use in like ROTC or something that attaches to my belt, and the monopod sticks right in that. And that's been going really well. It's great. It really allows you to get your hips into all the movements. But for the most part, for a lot of the docs that I've shot recently, the monopod has really gotten in the way. There's been times when I really have just needed to get a shot from the ground up, and you can't get there because it blocks you. You can only get like maybe a foot off the ground. If that takes a long time to adjust and everything. So I tried, because the GH5 has the IBIS. I tried doing my most past one, the J story. Eventually what I had to do was I just kind of just left the monopod. I just abandoned it because I was getting frustrated, and I just turned the IBIS on and tried to do the whole shoot with the IBIS, which eats up your batteries pretty quickly, but it's worked. It's worked pretty well. So first thing I did is I've added the battery grip. And essentially, this isn't necessarily to give me extended battery life. What this is it's a complete ergonomic decision. So that way I can easily switch out my battery within a couple seconds and change my battery in a couple seconds instead of having to remove the base plate, get the battery out, switch it, put the battery back on, get my multi-tool back out, and put the base plate back on. It has become a 2-minute process just to change the single battery. When with this, it's literally like seconds. You pop it out, you put it back in, and you're ready to go. So this is an off-brand one. I'm not necessarily sure if shaving off 2 minutes is worth $350, but it's definitely worth $50. So that was an easy decision. So the benefit of that is it also adds, sorry, I've got, my parents have like 3 dogs and 2 cats, so they're just gonna be running around here. I'm also currently eating halfway finished through my lunch. So Denali is right there waiting for me to throw her some scraps. The battery grip also adds some weight to it. It gives you an extra place to put your fingers, so that way your hand isn't stuck to just the camera body. You can spread out your hand a little bit more. I've got long fingers, so it's good for me because it feels more natural to hold it there. Also, there's this really nice curved indentation that the battery grip also adds, which just feels a lot more natural to hold. So I like the fact that it extends the grip, and that's really good. Another ergonomic choice, which is a pretty minor one, and I just added it for this shoot, but it's really helped out, is this little rubber addition. So I read an article, this guy filming for Sky News who used the GH5, he also used this as well as attached the side hand grip, and I basically stole those from him. And this thing, even though it's kind of expensive for what it was, I think a pack of 2 of these cost like $10, but you can really find the record button a lot easier, especially since I found with the GH5 the record button is super smooth, and it's just even with this plastic material. And look, my hand just is gliding over that. The finger just glides over it. But once you hit this, it's like there's a hard sort of stop. That it's got these little rubber things that come out, and they just kind of just grip your finger as you try to push through. So that's great. We've got a side hand grip too, which is nice. It makes it feel a little bit more secure, a bit more familiar. I tried to adjust this to make it feel like the FS5 that I used to use, so that's great. Obviously, you've got the neck strap here, so that way I can go to this angle where I can push out, right? And so that keeps it steady. That's really great. And then, of course, the rubber eye cup. So if I need to lift up, most of the time, because of with the top handle, I'm shooting about like mid chest height to waist height. But if I need to go up, I can move my hand from the top handle, immediately put it into the grip, and then boom, I'm right on it with the side cup. And this thing is seriously awesome, because the eye cup for the GH5 is a total joke. It sucks. It hurts. This actually, not only is it super comfortable, it really gives you a firm contact point. It's a very wide contact point, so it really just kind of sticks. I can show it this way. It really just sticks all the way around your eye, which is great. And the awesome part too is it helps to keep your face away from the back of the camera, so your nose isn't smushing the screen. Like my nose, you see that gap right there? My nose doesn't even touch the screen, so that's really great. So yeah, so then we work our way up. We've got the top handle. I use this a lot more for this shoot. I'd watched a video by Mark Bone, who's an absolute excellent documentary filmmaker, and he has this whole video on how, well, not the whole video, but a large part of the video is about how he loves using top handles. And basically his explanation is it acts sort of like as a pendulum. So you see that the camera finds its center balance and balances itself. So you're distributing a lot less handshake when you've got the top handle, because it's helping to balance the camera with that. So that's great. The sucky part is that my wrist was really hurting. So I just feel like days and days and days of shooting like that, probably not good for your long-term joint and wrist stuff. My dad would much better explain what the heck I'm talking about, because he's a doctor and that's who I've been filming up here. The downside to this small rig cage, which is a pain in my side, is the fact that they've got the cold shoe right here, but if I put the mic right on the cold shoe, it bumps into the top handle. Now I've got a space to move this top handle one over, but still I'm going to be smacking it as I'm going down to grab it. So I added just a small ball mount and placed that in the cold shoe, so that way it just really helps to, oh daggone, now I can't even, let me move that. But place it on a mini ball mount, so that way it really helps to offset it and give me a lot more space, so I'm not touching the mic and hitting the mic as I'm moving over. So that's good. I want to get something a little smaller, because that's just a little too bulky and it wasn't as secure as I would like to have it. So definitely something just a little smaller would be a great upgrade. This isn't perfect. I'm always tweaking this thing. I like the idea of it, but I still have a couple more refinements, which we'll get to now. So another thing that I was using for the first time on this was the external monitor. Primarily, I've been using the flip out screen on the GH5, but what I've found is in using the flip out screen in conjunction with the neck strap, they're really not in the bed. If you can see that, they kind of fight each other, right? And then even if I pull the neck strap over top to where it's free, my vision is blocked. I can't see the full screen because the neck strap is always in front of the screen and it's blocking my view of what I'm filming. So I wanted to get rid of that. So I added the top monitor. This is just a Feel World. I think it's like their 5-inch monitor. Really awesome, fairly bright. It's not amazing at all outside. Outside I have to switch to the EVF. But it's decent, it did its job. I feel like it's much better as a studio monitor, which is what I primarily have been using it for. And I don't like this way that it's attaching to the top handle. I really just need to invest in one of those friction-based monitor mounts, so that way I can push and adjust as needed, which is, I kind of got around with it a little bit with this, but it's just not ideal. So definitely want to invest in that, so that way it will help to keep the rest of the package not so tall. It'll probably just take off like an inch of height from that. Obviously I need a shorter HDMI cable. It was just couldn't get to Best Buy because pandemic, right? So I just did the best that I could, wrapped it, used these Velcro cable ties. Hear that? For cable management. So I've got one here to attach it to the bracket, another one here to keep that together, and then I put a final one down here to keep the microphone and HDMI cable together. You know, just to clean up the cables, so that way my hands weren't bouncing into them at all. And that actually helped significantly, which was totally great. So, so yeah, really stoked about this. However, one thing that I really want to mention too is something that I don't feel like people comment on, talk about, which I don't understand why, but this lens, let me go ahead and just close up the sensor real quick. Birds are chirping outside. Can you hear that? But this lens, I feel like, is an unsung hero of the Micro Four Thirds video making world. What I mean by that is when people are talking about like recommendations for lenses to buy for the GH5, they're always defaulting to Panasonic, as if they've forgotten that Olympus is a partner in the Micro Four Thirds lens mount, and they actually make really great lenses. And so I want to talk about this. This is the Olympus 12-40 f2.8 lens, and I feel like it is the best documentary lens, native Micro Four Thirds documentary lens. I haven't yet used Panasonic's 20-25, but I've got a feeling that this is much more of a better all-around pick, obviously, because you've got your standard wide to your standard telephoto. And what it's great is it gives you a little bit more reach than a 24-70, right? You have 24 equivalent to 80 equivalent. So you're basically at that near perfect portrait focal length. You're not quite at 85, but you're at 80. So you're a bit more telephoto than at 70, right? And it's a constant 2.8 throughout. Now on a Micro Four Thirds, I think 2.8 is equivalent to a f5.6, right? So you're really not getting the shallowest depth of field, but you're still getting a shallow depth of field look, right? It's just, what's frustrating is you kind of have to ride it at f2.8. And what I've noticed is if I'm entering into the X-Tele mode on the GH5, just to give me a little bit extra reach, I can tell a little bit of purple fringing in just certain high contrast areas when this is completely wide open. When I say a little bit, I mean like seriously, a little bit. I only notice it when I'm in X-Tele mode and punching in 2 times on the image. But this thing is absolutely fantastic. It's super well made and it's super lightweight, right? Like I feel like maybe a more versatile and better choice would be to get a Speed Booster XL, so the 0.64x one, with and pair that with a Canon 24-105. That will probably take that f4 maybe down to an f2, maybe, I think. I'm not totally sure about that. So you might get a little bit brighter, you might get a little bit more reach, but I don't think you'd be able to get the 24. I think maybe with the how the crop factor would work out, you might get in the 28 millimeter range, maybe 30 millimeter range. So this is wider. I love the 24 millimeter focal length. I think it's awesome. I think for the weight, it's great because you can just, it makes it for a much lightweight package, right? You can just run and go. And I basically was on this lens the whole day. Like, I brought my set of primes just in case, but stuff was happening too fast that I really just needed to zoom, and this thing was totally awesome. And so I started out explaining that people keep picking the Panasonic lenses, and I feel like that's a complete miss in a sense because you're forgetting one thing: focus. Now, this goes from autofocus to manual focus, and the great thing about it is when you pull down for manual focus, it is literally a linear manual focus lens with hard stops at your close point and your infinity point. So hear that click? I can't push it anymore, and I can't push it anymore there either. It's not the longest throw, you know, fairly short, so you do have to do very, very minor movements at times. But the fact that it has a linear focus pull makes it far superior in my mind to any of the Panasonic lenses, which, though they have image stabilization, they're focused by wire, which is really frustrating way of pulling focus. This, I know exactly how much I need to move. Like, it even has a distance scale on it if I was so inclined to look at that while I'm running around filming, which I never do, obviously. But why it's awesome is because simply the fact that it has a linear focus throw, right? GH5 has inbuilt image stabilization. Yes, if you double couple that with a lens with OS, it gives you gimbal-like action, but those lenses have focus by wire, and they're not nearly as reliable and accurate when you're trying to pull critical focus as this lens is. Also, this lens gives you that extra 5 millimeters, which is really an extra 10 millimeter equivalent reach than the Panasonic does. So love this thing, absolutely love it. It's also, you can find it for less than the Panasonic at times. So I got this on sale for like 600 bucks new, and often its average price is anywhere between 800 to 900, which if you compare it to the Panasonic, they're kind of very close in price, but this is always coming in just a little bit under. So yeah, that's what I was running with today. Really like where this is going. Need a couple more refinements to this till it's gonna really suit me the way that I want it to, but seriously, unsung hero of documentary shooting on the Micro Four Thirds system, the Olympus 12-40 f2.8 Pro lens. Super awesome. All right, catch y'all in the next video.